So patience, everyone. So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this meeting of the Georges River Local Planning Panel for the 15th of December 2022. My name is Stephen Alchin and I'm the chair of the panel. The panel is currently streaming to you from the council office in McMahon Street in Hurstbourne. The panel members who make up the panel today are on my right, Deborah Laidlaw, an expert panel member. On my left, Annette Rohotis, another expert panel member, and on the far left, George Vardis, who is a community representative on the panel. Where the panel has been appointed by the Minister for Planning to determine specified development applications, including the development applications on today's agenda, in accordance with the requirements of the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act. The panel acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land on which this meeting is being broadcast as that of the Badigar people of the Eora Nation. I'm required to advise you that under the provisions of the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act, this meeting of the panel is being live streamed and will be made available on Council's website. In accordance with revised meeting protocols, interested parties wishing to make representations to the panel were requested to register a summary of their interests. 4 registrations were received and forwarded to the panel. The panel has reviewed the registrations and advised the council officers that they wish to hear oral submissions from the following persons, who will be called during the course of this meeting in order of the items that are published on the council's website. Those people are Mr. Tim Jin, in respect of item LPP 057-22, which is the development application to convert, or proposal to convert the existing retail car park into a public car park. Mr. Ian Cady, representative of the applicant for that particular development, 99A Forest Road, among other addresses. Thirdly, Mr. Ambrose Marquardt, in respect of item LPP 058-20, which is for modification of a development consent in respect of the seniors housing development at 2 to 8 McPherson Street, Hurstbourne, and also Mr. Howard Taylor, who will also be available to address the panel about that particular application. The panel has received completed assessment reports from council staff for the 2 development applications. The panel has undertaken, or has inspected rather, the sites and nearby locality for those 2 matters on the agenda today. We'll deal with each application in order as published on council's website, being DA 2021-0463, in respect of development at 99A Forest Road, 83 and 89 Durham Street, and 6 and 12 Jack Brabham Drive, Hurstville, concerning the use of the retail car park as a public car park. Secondly, MOD 2022/0101, in respect of development at 2 to 8 McPherson Street, Hurstville, modification of the development consent DA 2020/0342 for demolition works, tree removal, and construction of the seniors housing development and consolidation of the site into a single lot. Thirdly, and finally, a 12-month delegation of functions for the Georges River Council Local Planning Panel to the Council's Manager of Development and Building. As required by the Local Planning Panel Code of Conduct, panel members are required to disclose any interests in respect of any matters on the agenda for a panel meeting. The relevant forms as prescribed by the Department of Planning and Environment have been completed and a table for council to be included in the online minutes of the meeting. No panel member has disclosed any conflict of interest in any matter on today's meeting agenda. In addition, as required by the Local Planning Panel Code of Conduct, panel members are required to provide an annual disclosure of pecuniary interest and other matters for June 2021 to June 2022. Relevant forms as prescribed by the Department of Planning and Environment have been completed and are tabled to be uploaded to Council's website. And I note for reference that these are the declarations of interest, pecuniary interest. As we progress through the matters on the agenda, only those persons who are registered to speak will verbally be able to make representations to the panel. Each person who is registered to speak is requested to limit their presentation to 3 minutes. I'd ask those persons that are invited to speak to the panel via Teams that they speak clearly and at a volume that will project into their speakers to assist those viewing the live streaming to hear clearly what is being said. To manage the live streaming process, all speakers should leave their camera and microphone turned off until their turn to speak is called. At this time, I remind those persons that any defamatory, discriminatory or offensive language used may result in the author being exposed to liability, for which counsel and the panel take no responsibility. Once we've heard all the oral submissions on a particular application, we'll move on to the next application. Members of the public are free to continue to listen to the broadcast. The determination of the application will be made in closed session, which is not live streamed or recorded. The determination will be available on Council's website once confirmed by the panel, and usually within 2 to 3 days of the meeting being held. That's the end of my introduction. I'd like to now call the first item and the first submitter, who I understood was going to be here in person, but
he's now coming by Teams.
Going to participate by Teams. Okay, good. So, Mr. Jin, are you on the call?
Yes, I am.
Thank you, Mr. Jin. You've got the floor. Please proceed.
Okay. So my name is Tim Jin. I am a resident and a strata committee member for the Stage 1 of East Quarter, and represent the 170 odd residents who live in Stage 1 East Quarter. I'm also one of the residents who made a submission objecting to the application. The main reason obviously being the fact that our car park we were never consulted by the developer in regards to the use of our car park as an entrance to their application for a timed car park. Since the submission was made by the various owners of the complex, the developer has reached out to us, and we've made some progress in terms of making concessions and doing certain works to ensure that our visitors' car park for our buildings are protected. And I believe this will continue, and they will finish it. However, as of right now, I would say most of the work is incomplete, and the only way we can ensure that they complete the works is that council or the planning panel does not approve the application as of right now. We can only ensure that the developer completes the works and then request that the planning panel approve it then. So that's essentially what I'm here to say, is that we've made some headway in terms of making an agreement to ensure that our visitors' car park is protected. The developer has made promises and works will be complete. However, at this stage, it's not. So I request the planning panel to hold off on making a decision until possibly February or March when the proposed works are complete. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jin. Do any members of the panel have any questions for Mr. Jin?
Yes, I do. Mr. Jin, what proposed works are you talking about?
The developer is proposing, yes, they're proposing to put boom gates at the Forest Road entry and exit. Those boom gates are supposed to be to ensure that our cars entering our visitors' car park move on into the 2-hour zone, which is part of their application. If those cars don't move on into their car park, then the person whose car it is that entered the property will then be charged a fee. So that because right now there are a lot of cars in our visitors' car park who park there as who use it as their commuter car park, or as a car park for retail, which are not part of our building or strata scheme. So it's currently being abused. So once the boom gates go in, and the developer is also proposing to put in an intercom system which connects to our buildings, which only allows our residents to allow cars to enter and exit without paying a fee. That way, we believe it should cut out 90% of commuter car park abusers using our car park and abusing our car park. That's one of the issues, and another major one would be the cost of maintaining the car park. That has now been sort of transferred, but the paperwork still hasn't been signed yet. That the car park be maintained by all of the stages of East Quarter, because right now that car park is only maintained by stage 1 residents, and it comes at great cost, especially when cars make patrons or visitors make damage to the car park, such as the garage doors, which happened multiple times in the last year, and the stage 1 owners had to fork out of their own pockets to make those repairs. And yeah, now it's beginning to be addressed, but of course the paperwork still hasn't been signed. We would like to see that signed before any approval be made by the council or the planning panel.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions?
Is that working? I just want to clarify which of the visitor spaces it is that you're concerned that retail car park users are using it. Is it the ones immediately when you come in off Forest Road, those spaces there? Or?
That's right, yes. I'm not sure if you guys saw the car park when you made your site visit. There are signs currently plastered on the walls saying stage 1 car park only.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those are the ones that are being abused currently, and that's the one that belongs to our business car park, yes.
And as far as you're aware, what do you understand those car parking spaces to be? To whom are they allocated?
They're allocated to the Aqua, Vantage, and the stage 1 retail lots. So right now there's no clear division of where the stage 1 starts and stage 2 start. That's why the signs are there, but obviously they're not working because clearly there's no enforcement being made. But there's about 37, 38 car spaces there currently that's assigned to stage 1.
Yeah, but you don't understand those spaces to be residential visitor spaces.
No, they are fully supposed to be residential visitors car spaces mixed in with stage 1 retail, which are about 7 retail lots for stage 1.
Yeah. Okay. And then there's a separate residential visitor area that's controlled by, I think it's through gates or doors, isn't there? And that's not a concern to you, that visitor area.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
I think there's another visitor area, parking area, dedicated parking area that has, I can't read whether it's doors or boom gates.
Yeah, so there will be extra boom gates. There's supposed to be extra boom gates put in by the developer. They're not installed yet. And that's supposed to be then for the 2-hour car park for the Woolworths retail area. And that's not part of our car park at all.
Okay, but anyway, just to summarise, it's that area immediately when you come in off Forest Road that's your concern.
That's right, yes.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dean. I've got just one clarifying comment. So the works that you would like to see completed, in a sense, before any approval was given, would be the boom gate at Forest Road, the entry level boom gate at Forest Road, and the intercom system. Is that correct?
Yes, those have been put in, but they're not online. But also, there's the boom gates specifically for the stage 2 or the application itself. That area, those boom gates haven't been installed yet. Obviously, with those installed and in place and operated by the parking company, only when that's actually all online and in place will we say that the works are complete, and also the intercom, yes.
So my understanding is that, as proposed by the applicant, and we'll hear from Mr. Cady shortly, the general traffic, not just that going associated with the developments you spoke of, the residential developments and the like, can come in off Forest Road and would pass through that area and then go into another boom gate to go into the retail parking next
That's right.
next to Woolworths. So, do you, I just need to get this clear in my own mind, do you have any concerns about that happening if the boom gate and the intercom are put in?
So do I have any concerns if the boom gates are put in?
Yes, if the boom gates and the intercom to allow residents to access that part of the parking without having to pay and the like.
Yeah.
But others could still traverse through that parking area to get to the retail. Is that the fundamental issue, that you don't want anyone other than the owners and visitors to the developments that you're talking about, the residential apartments and the retail stage one? Is your concern that you don't want anyone passing through that car park?
The discussion with the developer, we've reached an agreement that those visitors can pass through our car park as long as that car park will then be maintained by everyone in all of East Quarter. Because right now there's 3 stages to East Quarter: stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3. Only stage 1 is paying for the car park, the business car park that's in question. Once that transfer has been made onto everyone, then we will have no problem with visitors coming or anyone coming in through the Forest Road entry, because that will be all the costs of maintenance and repair will be borne by everyone rather than just the stage 1 residents. So that's that part of it. And the boom gates is also another part, which means that stage 1 residents will have their visitors car park protected, and the stage 1 residents will be allowed to park in there without having to pay a fee.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So once those 2 are in place, that would basically address all the issues, all concerns that we would have.
And can I just clarify on that question of the maintenance? You're talking about general car park maintenance, not just the maintenance of the intercom boom gate system for the retail parking. It's all.
That's right.
That's all aspects.
That's right. All aspects: cleaning, electricity use, repairs. Yeah, essentially everything that all the costs that are associated with that car park be borne by all the residents who make use of that.
So you're saying that you currently have to bear part of the cost of the retail parking area?
Sorry, can you repeat?
Do the residents currently have to pay part of the cost of the retail parking zone? Or is it all lumped in together?
The retail, as in for stage 1, yes, everyone pays for that, yes.
The residents as well as the commercial and retail users?
Only for stage 1, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Look, thank you, Mr. Jin. That's been helpful. You're welcome to stay on the Teams system. The next person who's been registered to talk to us is Mr. Ian Cady from Mecone, on behalf of the applicant. And Mr. Cady, you've got the floor.
Thank you, Chair.
Is that good?
That's good. Yes. Thank you, Chair. I think there might be a couple of just statutory planning matters that might clarify everything that's going on here. The conflict around parking has only now arisen because the Woolworths has opened and started training, so non-residents are now coming into the site. For many years, there's been a great excess of parking, and as you can see, there's a couple of cars in there that have looked like many months of dust on them. There's a lot of informal use of the car park. This proposal is just to regularise that and to protect the residents from public coming in and to make sure that everything operates as intended under the consent. Now, the residential control can all be implemented as complying development certificates, putting security gates across residential areas. However, consent is triggered when you charge a fee, because then it becomes a public car park by definition, which constitutes a change of use, and so hence development consent is triggered. So the boom gates in relation to the residential areas have all been installed and the cameras are there, installed as compliant development. However, the gates into the shopping area are part of the charging of a fee. Now, the fee is not intended as a revenue source. In fact, it will end up being a net negative, but it's a management technique. So the vast majority of people won't pay any fee. First 2 hours will be free, like the car park out front that I parked in here. Third hour will be nominal, and then it will ramp up as you stay too long. That only applies to the retail, and the full intent is to put that second set of boom gates in as part of this proposal so that the residents can come in, their visitors can come into that first area, but unless they get authorisation from an owner, they won't be able to exit without paying the charge. So that first area that you come into will only be available for legitimate visitors of residents, and they will need to have a resident buzz them out to leave the car park. If someone else does, then there is a fee payable to get out. The majority of people will travel straight through into the Woolworths parking area, and then when they leave, presumably most will leave within 2 hours. The camera recognition will see they've been less than 2 hours, head out, or maybe pay a fee. So I think Mr. Jin and the developer are actually on the same page. There's just the statutory issue that the charging of a fee constitutes development. Constitutes a change of use to public car park from being just ancillary to the development. And so, I think the matters can all be resolved. It's just a bit of a chicken and egg that we need consent to implement the security over the retail.
Thanks, Mr. Kay. I've got one or two things I might raise later on if it's not already raised by other members of the panel. But any other members have questions they'd like to ask Mr. Kay?
So I'm trying to process this. So what you're saying with the two boom gates, if a retail parker was to park in this first grey area, that your system would know they weren't authorised, and then they would get charged when they left by Forest Road.
Yes, when they come in off 93 off Forest Road,
Yeah.
they come into the visitor parking area.
And so just to clarify, so we're all talking about the same area, which is this basement parking
But
one.
the immediate basement as you come
When
in
you
off
come in off
Forest Road.
Forest Road, yeah. So, and you agree with Mr. Jin that that's a mix of some commercial and residential visitor parking?
Well, that first area,
Yeah.
the 44 odd space, I think,
Yeah.
is resident visitor only.
Resident visitor only?
Yeah, the sign's saying that, and so the public cannot park there. So you come through the first set of boom gates
Yeah.
that have already been installed. Now, if you park there
As a retail shopper?
as a retail shopper, well, you won't be able to get out unless you get let out by a resident, because you need to travel through the second set of boom gates to
Yeah.
legitimately park in a retail area.
Because I think, just again processing, one of the concerns of the residents is that the shoppers, people want to avoid the fee, they want to stay there longer, will park there. So if they were, yeah, I see what you mean. So they can't get out. So
They won't be able to get out without paying a
So-
fee.
I mean, we did notice this morning, there didn't seem to be an obvious signage there. If I was going in that car park, I wouldn't necessarily have known as a shopper I shouldn't have been parking there.
But I suppose my observation going there this morning, you drive in and you keep following the Woolworths signs until you get to Woolworths, and you'd have to circulate quite a way back out to go to those first spaces. It wouldn't be a rational thing to do to come in and park immediately, because then you have to walk all the way through the car park to Woolworths.
Yeah.
So I would think most people would come all the way to the
Right.
gates of Woolworths and then circulate back, and they would need to go back through boom gates into that visitor area.
And then, so say someone, makes an honest mistake and parks there and then tries to get out and can't. What happens with that car blocking the exit boom gate when they find out they can't get out?
Look, that would be a management matter, which a short answer, I'm not certain. But what we're trying to do is to regulate that and to prevent that happening. I presume it would just be a fee like a fine to exit, which would presumably be a day rate or something.
but but your system would have to be set up to have a credit card.
Yes.
So it wouldn't.
And so as many, like just at Hurstville, Westfields, just, across the road, as you go out, if you've been there longer than 2 hours, a price comes up and you tap your card,
Yeah.
or put notes in, and you pay the required fee to lift the boom gate.
So I take it. I can find the previous point. If you wouldn't object, we wouldn't object to better signage being put up in that area
That would be fine.
to
Yeah.
say residential parking only. If you park here, you'll be fined, or you won't be able to get out, or whatever. Proceed through to Woolworths, something on those lines.
Yeah, and look, we're going there this morning. I think probably does need to be some better signage today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Deborah. Annette or George, have any questions? I just had one question, I suppose, about this issue of maintenance costs and cost of damage to property within that residential area or residential parking area. Can you just illuminate us about how
Yeah.
you address that?
I mean, residents tend to only come, once a day, if that, whereas shoppers come a lot more. So that initial area gets a lot more wear and tear on the, on the equipment, like the boom gates, just general cleaning. So that puts a burden on them, and that's something that the proponent is negotiating through the Building Management Committee. And I'd say there is a governance system over the development with 9 separate stratas and then a community management statement where those matters are resolved. I suppose I'd note that we're only here because it's the payment component. Otherwise, these kind of arrangements between different stratas are handled by the community management statement. All the acronyms I get. The head overall strata committee. But that is being negotiated. So it is the fact that it's a more heavily used area because the retail people are going through, and so it needs more regular cleaning. And so there is a bit more of a maintenance cost burden. And there's the general public going through, which brings liability and so forth. So it's sharing of those costs, and the developer agrees to that. And I understand there's a tentative agreement. And that's where I was saying we have a slight chicken and egg thing, because Mr. Jim was saying we want this installed, but we can't install it without consent.
Just one other quick question. We noticed we were on doing the site inspection this afternoon that, and I might correct me if I'm wrong, but just get confirmation from the council officers that the boom gates, one of which the exit boom gate on Forest Road was installed, the entry boom gate onto Forest Road hasn't yet been installed, but I don't think they're shown on the plans. Is that correct, council?
I think that's what you were alluding to, was the compliant development side, because that's fairly associated with those ones.
Okay. It struck me looking at it today that the location of the entry boom gate there could be a sensitive issue, simply because it's possible cars will be queuing back out onto Forest Road, depending on where that entry boom gate is located. Have you got any thoughts about that?
Look, only that if it did prove to be problematic, there is room for it to be moved further down. I assume the developer took the traffic engineer's advice who designed the car park on where to locate it. But if it were to be problematic, there is further ramp that it could be moved down. I haven't been privy to the decision on exactly where it went, but it could be moved if necessary.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Cady. That's been very helpful. That's the end of the input from parties for the first of the applications that we're dealing with this afternoon. I'll now, if I may, call Mr. Marquardt and Mr. Taylor, if they're on the call, to talk about the development application for the seniors housing at McPherson Street. I can see faces on the screen. Thank you. Please feel free to start to enlighten us about the application.
Yeah, I'll just quickly introduce myself. So I'm Ambrose Markwood. I'm the Acting Director of Portfolio Services at the Land and Housing Corporation. I'd firstly just like to thank the Council staff for their support of the modification and to acknowledge the panel members early on for your consideration. Just for a little bit of context for the panel, not sure how much you know about the Land and Housing Corporation. We're a self-funded entity which relies predominantly on small-scale infill developments to deliver the state's social housing program. Land and Housing is responsible for managing approximately 130,000 dwellings across the state, and our primary goal is building more and better social housing to respond to tenant need. This is an important 20-unit project for LAC in a very high demand area with over 250 people on the priority wait list, in excess of 1,400 on the general housing wait list. And for the panel's reference, the priority wait list is essentially made up of high need households, particularly older tenants with complex housing needs. So seniors housing is the most suitable product for Land and Housing to build. And we are mainly here today in case there were any questions of the panel or concerns which needed to be addressed in person. So as you're probably aware, the application seeks approval to modify the proposed seniors housing development to include an underground pump room, water storage tank, some water infrastructure and rationalizations of some of the building design. This also includes some increased landscaping and small retaining walls. In doing so, the panel meeting was triggered as it resulted in a greater than 10% non-compliance with the local FSR. This is partially reflective of the rationalisation of floor plans, but it's also reflective of the change in the prescribed FSR from 0.6 to 1 when the DA was originally approved to 0.55 to 1. So the non-compliance becomes greater than the 10% where it was originally a smaller percentage. The site, in LAC's opinion, retains great amenities, solar access, and is a sympathetic double-storey design which represents a better alignment to LAC's tenant needs and also improves the streetscape and aligns with the surrounding dwellings slightly better. And I would just like the panel to note that if the project was proposed now, LAC could actually self-approve under Part 5 powers. So it was just reflective of the legislation in force at the time. And I'll open it to any questions. And Howard Taylor is also here, the planner that's working on the project.
Thank you, Mr. Markart. Are there any questions from panel members? No, and I don't have any either. So thank you very much for making yourselves available to answer any questions. And we'll make our decision on that application shortly, along with the other matters. And our decisions will be published shortly. So thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you for your time.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye.
That's the end of the public part of our meeting this afternoon. The panel will now go into closed session to deliberate on the three items on the agenda. Thank you everyone for your participation this afternoon, and as I said before, the minutes of the meeting, our decisions will be published by the council in the next few days. Thank you.